Welcome back to Quick Tips. Today I'm going to show you how to get Windows Sandbox, which is a one-click, very easy to use virtual machine that you can use to test software that you might think might be malicious, or do anything else on a Windows 10 installation that you would not trust with your regular installation of Windows. This is a 100% walled-in garden, which is very safe to use, and it is incredibly easy to set up. It's incredibly lightweight. I'm going to show you how to set that up as fast as possible. Before you can get Windows Sandbox running, we first have to make sure that you meet a few prerequisites. Windows Sandbox first shipped in Windows 10 version 1903. So if you press Windows key and R and type in WinVer, this will bring up your Windows version. If you look where it says version, if this number is below 1903, let's say 1809 or 1803, then you cannot get Windows Sandbox running. So I recommend that you go to your settings, go to update and security, and then check for updates to see if you have a new feature update to Windows 10. Or if you already have 1903, 1909, or 2004, then we need to make sure that you're running a professional SKU of the operating systems. That includes something like Enterprise, Education, or Pro. If you're on Windows 10 Home, unfortunately, you cannot get access to these features. If you meet all those prerequisites with the operating system, next you need to enable CPU virtualization in your motherboard's BIOS. This really changes depending on the motherboard. I also recommend that you search up your specific computer vendor or motherboard to see how to enable virtualization. Now that you've done all of that, go to the search box and search up turn Windows features on or off, and then scroll down to where you see Windows Sandbox. It should be near the end of the list, and check that box on Windows Sandbox. Press OK, and now it's going to start to search for the required files to install Windows Sandbox, and then you're going to have to restart your computer. So I'm going to do that right now. Alright, so once you've restarted, now that feature should be available for you to use. If you go down into your start menu and search for Sandbox, when it boots, it should look like this. And then if you wait a little bit, it should load into the Windows Sandbox, which is a 100% walled garden version of Windows that will literally reinstall another instance of itself whenever you press this X. So you can install software, you can change settings, you can delete files, and once you press that X, it's going to give you a 100% brand new version of Windows. There are some limitations, first of all, that I want to go over. You cannot reboot the box, and you cannot shut it down. The instant you shut this down, all your progress is going to be lost. Another thing to keep in mind, if you log out of this box, it's also going to mess with stuff because it has a password on the temporary user account that is not accessible. You can see that it creates an automatic account, and if I go into the system information, it is running a Hyper-V instance. That's why it does need that professional version of Windows. And it also looks like it has configured 2 gigs of RAM with 4 total gigs of physical memory. And it does have all of the cores of my Ryzen 7 1800X processor, and it does also use a 64-bit operating system. It does not actually bring over the edition that you have installed. As you saw earlier, I had Education, but it does use the same version that you have. So right now I'm running on my host system an insider build of Windows. As you can see, I'm running build 2262.1010, and that is the same build that we're running on this Windows Sandbox version. And some other things to note, like I was pointing out with the account, it is a 100% light version of Windows, and it does not use your Microsoft account. So anything that you do here isn't going to be synced. You're not going to have any settings saved with this Sandbox, and it's also really hard for files to get in and out of the Sandbox. If I try to, let's say, copy something over from my host system, like this image here, as you can see, I cannot get it into the Windows Sandbox. And if I try to pull a file from the Sandbox to my host system, you cannot do that. Also, if I try to pull this DLL, as you can see, I cannot move it out of the Sandbox. And this is also running on a walled garden internet. So if we look at the adapter settings, it is using a default Hyper-V switch. And if I run a quick tracer command, it's first routing through the host system, which is mindtech.mshome.net, and then it routes to my default gateway from the host system. If I ran the tracer from my host system, it first goes to the default gateway. There is no other extra layer of communication there. And if I quickly look at the network information for this, network discovery is turned off by default. but I can still access my host computer or any other computer on the network. I just connected to my host computer, and now I can go and access files, bring them to the desktop. But again, network discovery is turned off by default, so it's not going to be able to quickly access other computers on the network. And that's why if I go to network again, you can't see any devices. And if I go to the network on the host system, there is absolutely no sign of this virtual computer running. The default gateway is configured as the host system's IP address. It does look like if I try to enter in the IP address for this virtual computer, Windows can find it, but I can't share files with it, because not only is file sharing not enabled, but I also don't know the credentials to this temporary user account. So if I go and try to install Epicam, go to Elgato. So as you can see, I am putting something in my downloads folder. I'm going to run the installer right after it gets downloaded. Now I'm going to make changes to the registry. It looks like the Keone installer has finished. It has been recently added, and I can open up this viewer like normal, and it works just as any application would. All the regular DLLs are here. Even if we look at the registry editor, go to local machine, it has added in the services from Apple into the registry. And if I also go to my services, the Keone service is present. And again, like I mentioned, it is very lightweight. It does not take up a lot of space on your hard drive. And just to demo that one-click wipeout, if I close out the sandbox, it warns me that all of my data is going to be permanently lost. And once I launch the sandbox again, everything that I changed is no longer present, and we are left with that 100% bare bones install of Windows. The Keone service is not present, and that file that I added on the desktop also has been deleted. So that is a quick demo and tutorial on how to get Windows Sandbox installed. I hope that this was helpful, and I hope that you can find some use out of this application like I have been able to do. So thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Bye bye.